In this episode, we discuss strategies for how to study the subject of organic chemistry from the beginner's perspective. You may have to change your study habits to maximize your chances of success.
What are some of the problems students encounter when they start studying organic chemistry?
One of the biggest problems is lack of intensity and time management skills. Intensity relates to understanding just what it is the student is getting themselves into if they want a future in a medical field, science, or engineering. It's hard work and requires a mature approach to the schoolwork at hand. The freshman year is about settling in and working out what college is about, although those grades do count in the long term. By the second year, students should have developed good study habits, but this isn't always the case. There are lots of distractions out there, which unfortunately get in the way, and students can be a little naive about what organic is going to require of them. So what are the typical problems? Many students are not willing to engage with the people teaching the class. They won't go to office hours, enroll in recitation, or even make use of the peer tutors that are often available. Very few students can do well in this subject alone, but many are missing the skills needed to engage. Too many students don't show up for class, and they miss the guidance that the lecturer can give on how to approach the subject. That lack of motivation usually ends in failure and repeating the class, sometimes several times. College is expensive, and that is a waste of time and resources. The majority of students, however, are willing to learn not only the subject material, but how to develop their skills in a class that pushes them to do so. Students come into organic with some idea of their career goals and future targets. They should realize that their approach to and performance in the organic sequence will be a good measure of their suitability for those ambitions.
How do I develop an effective approach that will lead to success?
Being organized and on top of material is absolutely key, and showing up on day one of class already knowing what to expect will take some of the anxiety out of the process. You know that the first few lectures are likely to be a review of general chemistry, so go back and look at topics such as electronegativity, bonding, and periodic trends. The professor will be talking about things you have already studied, so this is a great opportunity to solidify that knowledge. During those first few classes, you should decide how you are going to approach lectures. If the professor uses slides, are they available for printing or download to a device? If so, you could take notes on paper or a tablet or laptop. Be aware, however, that at this level, an instructor is not going to wait until you have finished copying everything down. You have paid for a textbook, so make notes about any topics you cover in class that don't make sense, and go and read about them later. This is the beginning of what should be an iterative approach to picking up organic basics. The first 4 to 6 weeks are full of the main topics that you need to take on board and use later, so make sure everything makes sense. Make lists of things that don't click, then read the book, then take that list to office hours and get further guidance. There are no topics to dodge in these courses, so you have to make sure that you genuinely understand what is happening.
How do I study after class?
This seems to be a real problem for many students, as they may not have been really pushed in their academic pursuits before they take organic. If you have played sports or in a band of some kind, you know that talent often isn't enough and that practice can make a modest amount of talent go a long way. Practice and application are the main factors in students getting through organic the first time. If a student is not putting in a solid effort, they won't get the grade they want. For organic classes, it will be important to shut yourself off from the world when it comes time to study and practice. Quiet library spaces are good for this. Noisy dorm rooms are not. Find a spot that is comfortable but quiet and has as few distractions as possible. Libraries have study sections with study carrels or even quiet rooms with whiteboards that you can book on a regular basis. You find that spot, put the phone away, and get to work.
Okay, I found a quiet spot. What do I do next?
Much of the material at the beginning of organic is reminding you about the periodic table, atomic structure, and the basics of bonding. There will be plenty of textbook problems to practice. However, do not take these for granted. You're trying to develop an effective process, so you might as well start with something familiar. When you do book problems, do so without the answers open so that you are only using what you actually know as a resource. Try a series of problems, then check the answers. If it hasn't gone well, then you know you need to revisit your notes and the relevant pages in the textbook. Once you are okay with that topic, move on to the next. Too often we see students who think they know what they are doing, but are then surprised by low exam scores. It is better to have problems when studying and then fix them before exams show up. Very few professional athletes or musicians can survive at that level without practice. and that will be the same in your organic classes. Get used to testing yourself as you go, and that will pay off over the term.
Are there any suggested methods for practicing problems?
Some students like to keep a separate notebook just for practice problems. This can be very useful as, like a diary, it allows for reflection and review as the course progresses. Instead of erasing incorrect work, they circle or highlight it and add a note about what mistakes were made. Other students use tablets with a stylus, which allows for saving work to the device or the cloud for future use. One downside to this is the temptation to erase and correct errors instead of highlighting them for future analysis. Sometimes a student will invest in a small whiteboard and erasable pens that will fit inside a school bag. This can work well for sketching out reaction mechanisms later when more detail is required. While these images are easy to erase, they could also be cataloged by taking a picture with a mobile phone. However you decide to record your work, the next stop is chapter problems from the textbook. Authors and publishers have become much better at compiling textbooks that are focused on how students learn and not just cramming pages full of information. You should take advantage of this by following the sequence of suggested problems. Modern textbooks have a building approach in which the problems start out simple but progress to more complex ideas over the chapter. Additionally, many books now come with an online ecosystem with more problems related to book topics. These can be useful for self-assessment, however, they often don't match the depth that will be required for exams. Students might use that online facility for specific sections that they are struggling with in order to build confidence.
Are there any bad habits to avoid?
Outside of the obvious not coming to class and not studying, one common mistake students will make is trying to reverse engineer old exam papers. Maybe some professors recycle questions so students think that memorizing or just knowing how to do specific problems will be their path to success. This, however, won't work with most organic professors who write different questions each time, with the expectation that students will be able to apply what they know to solving those problems. Working backwards from exams is like trying to put the roof on a house first. Another obvious problem is when students leave things until it's too late. Most will be starting the organic sequence in the fall term. Maybe they had the summer off and they struggle to get back into gear once classes start. This, unfortunately, can contribute to getting behind and never catching up. Most people don't care for stress and try to avoid it. One way to avoid stress in the organic sequence is to be prepared and ready to go on day one. Finally, not using the facilities available is a problem for many. They are paying for a textbook, but many don't use it. Their tuition covers faculty salaries and peer tutor pay, yet students never attend office hours or help sessions, even though there's plenty of evidence that says these things help improve grades. If you want to become a professional, you should be able to and want to interact with professionals.
How often should I be studying?
We know that you have other classes, and many have other responsibilities outside of their studies. However, studying a little every day is better than trying to cram the whole day before a test. Organic really is a marathon, and you need to be genuinely comfortable and conversant with topics in order to pass. Some suggest 1 hour for every hour of class time, which might not be enough, especially in the first 6 weeks. Doing problems for 30 minutes a day is probably the minimum that will help get you through, but much more time if you want the higher grades. Being in a recitation that uses quizzes for the grade is a very effective way of learning organic, as you are forced to study consistently for quizzes. Again, sometime each day will pay off. Unlike the gym, where Monday might be arm day, Tuesday legs, every day is organic day.
What about studying specific organic topics?
That comes next. The settling in period in organic doesn't last long before topics like hybridization patterns and resonance show up. Future episodes of this series will discuss how to approach each topic based on the sequence found in a typical undergraduate textbook. Those topics will be intertwined, so we will focus on how to stay organized. In the meantime, you should work on developing good study habits with the general chemistry topics reviewed early in the course. There is plenty of material on organicchemistrybasics.com to look at to help you get started.